Welcome to Canucks After Dark. Here are your hosts, Parker Hallowell and Clay Emo.
Good evening, Vancouver, and welcome back to Canucks After Dark, Season 2, Episode 5, I think, maybe Episode 6 at this point, as we are over 6 months into our Canucks After Dark venture, and we have actual Vancouver Canucks regular season hockey games to talk about for the first time in a long time. Clay coming off of a 24-hour live stream marathon, but he's ready to go. He's back. How are you feeling?
I'm doing great, Parker. Not only, more important than coming off the 24-hour stream, I'm here for the start of this, and I'm not leaving early. I felt bad for cheating. Well, I don't think you cared, but for cheating the viewers of the Clay Emo experience. So you have me for the whole hour, although I will take a break for 30 seconds in between. You know what I'm talking about, but we'll worry about that later.
We do have a lot of good topics tonight. Of course, we have the 3 games that we can recap. We've got some Travis Hamonic news. We've got some Brock Boeser news. We got 3 games upcoming before our next show as the road trip finishes up in Buffalo, Chicago, and Seattle. Well, of course, Don't Do That, our haikus, Evander Kane news. So much stuff has happened in the last week, and it is going to be a blast to talk about. I feel like I normally have another spiel in here, but I can't remember it. So, Clay, do you want to get right into our first topic of the night?
Sure. I think the spiel, isn't it usually about, finding us on podcasts like networks and stuff like that?
Yeah, you guys know where to find us at this point. I think you can figure it out. Let's get into our first topic of the evening. Normally we'd start off with the games that have happened, but I do want to start off with the more interesting news that broke today, and that's around Travis Hamonic. And we're not going to do any, we've said this every time, we're not going to do any speculating. We're going to talk strictly about what this means for the team. But he's on leave of absence, which isn't like a CBA official term. Technically, he is under the same boat as suspended without pay, just maybe mutually, which frees up the entire $3 million of cap space for the Vancouver Canucks. He did have 1.785 left on his cap hit while designated to the AHL, which he did not report to, which means the Canucks can suspend him without pay. However, Canucks obviously in LTIR, so it's kind of complicated if this actually helps the team or not. Clay, what was your initial reaction to sort of the Twitter storm that occurred this morning?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. I want to give you props right off the start, Parker, because whenever it came up on here, you would be the one who say it's not fair to speculate. We shouldn't speculate. And then I would agree with you, but then I'd start speculating for a couple of minutes, and then
it's hard not to.
It is, and it's because we care, right? It's not because we're worried about where this $3 million is going to go to. That's the practical side, but the human side. And I vlogged about this today, Parker. I actually said, I pulled a mea culpa. I said, in the past, and it wasn't for clickbait or for views, but I was curiously interested in trying to piece together what was going on. And then I said, no, that's ridiculous. Jim Benning has asked for privacy. He's asked for, just kind of no more comment. And with that part of it, I think that's fair. And I basically said I probably was a small contributor to the other side. So having said all that, I want the best for him, whether it's a mental health thing. Actually, I'm doing it again. Whatever it is, I want the best for him for sure. The Twitter storm that you talked about, yeah, I think Cap Friendly, right? They came out first and said they noticed that he wasn't on the thing, and they used the term suspended. Then Travis Green said, no, that's not true. Then Jim Benning released said, no, he's being placed on a temporary leave of absence. And then Cap Friendly went back and said, but technically the term is still suspended without pay. It doesn't mean suspended because he did something bad. It just means that you're suspending his pay. And I guess that technically is correct, right?
Yeah, that is the CBA official term. It is kind of interesting that this is the route they went. Because, the Canucks are in LTIR, right? It's not like, because normally throughout the season, you accumulate cap space, right? If you have, let's say, $2 million of free space, the cap rolls over every day. So every day that you have that $2 million of cap space, you get a little bit more towards the year. And that's why teams can go out and sign someone or trade for someone at the trade deadline. It was like a $6 million cap hit because he only has like $2 million left and they've accrued enough space over the previous length of the season, which would make sense in a case like this. However, with Ferland on LTIR and Brandon Sutter on LTIR and Brady Keeper on LTIR, the Canucks basically have an expanded cap as in they can go over the cap a certain amount. However, they won't accrue anything through that. So the projected cap space right now is $0. They just now also have another like $2 million of LTIR that they can dip into, but that's only relevant if they either call someone up that's expensive, which I don't think they have anyone that qualifies, or if they were to go out and try to make an addition to the team.
So that's a good explanation. Does that mean they can go find someone and sign them for $2 million? I'm not being sarcastic. I'm asking you.
Yeah, I believe so. So if I'm reading this right, their LTIR space, or their total LTIR is about $5.4 million, and they're about 3.2 into it. So that leads me to believe that they can go another 2.2 million over the cap.
Yeah.
However, that it's not really that simple. Because what if Brandon Sutter comes back? Well, then you have his cap hit goes back on the cap, and that's $1 million. And if Brady Keeper comes back, and then if Travis Hamonic comes back, 3 months from now, let's guess, then he would be against the cap as well. So it's really tricky. You can only really do it if you knew that he was done for the season. Otherwise, you'd have to do some weird cap juggling later on, like we've sort of seen Toronto have to do early on in the season. So it doesn't give the Canucks a lot of flexibility. So it kind of, it kind of makes you wonder, well, why even bother suspending him in the first place, unless it is just a financial decision on behalf of the ownership group at that point.
Great point. And to take a really extreme but a clear example, let's say Hamonic comes back on November 1st and he comes back to Vancouver, not Abbotsford. We got to count for his full $3 million. Guess what? We're actually got to clear $1 million somewhere, whether that is cutting a Patan or a Chiasson or whoever it may be, right? You got to make that space. So that's a really good point. And you see contenders, they don't spend all the way to the cap. They leave space at trade deadline time, right? When they can trade away picks and prospects that barely count for anything for a rental, a $5 million, $6 million, $7 million player, whatever it is. So it might behoove the Canucks to leave that cap space open for whenever Hamonic or Sutter, as you said, comes back.
Right, yeah. So since the Canucks do have about 2.2 million of LTIR to dip into, if Hamonic came back and was the full 3 million, when you send someone down to the AHL, that would cover that in that case. Right. So the Canucks were they were fine under the cap. I mean, fine under the cap. But this doesn't really make a big impact unless, like I said, they knew he wasn't coming back and they could go out and spend that money elsewhere. But even then, I don't know where they're going to be spending that money, right? I saw lots of people speculating oh, well, could you go get a shutdown right-handed defenseman? It's like every team in the league wants one of those, right? You can't just be like, oh, we got $2 million to spend. Let's go pick up a really good player. It's like, well, no, they all the really good players are picked up by now. Yes. That's why we end up with guys like Alex Chiasson getting PTOs and not, really good right-handed defensemen.
Travis Green defended Alex Chiasson, though, in the media availability today, said he's been fine, and which he has been, but I'd rather have Brock Boeser, but I know we'll get to that.
All right. Do you want to get into the games that we saw come up in the last week?
Sure. Let's do that.
Right. Let's go from the top. Season opener, Edmonton Oilers take down the Vancouver Canucks in an opening night shootout. This was a wild game that saw the Edmonton Oilers come out to a late first period goal, a late second period goal to have a 2-0 lead. And it was one of those ones where it kind of felt like it just wasn't going to be the Canucks' night, even though they were the better team later on in the game. And then they get 2 defenseman goals that both very fluky, that should not have gone in. One, a wild tip off of an Oliver Ekman-Larsson shot from the point off a defenseman's stick into the far post. And then there was the Quinn Hughes goal where he kind of just snuck in and just snuck a shot past Smith to force the shootout, which went to 5 rounds and was ended by Kyle Turris. What was your initial reaction to this game?
It felt it felt like I wasn't surprised, basically, because Edmonton's at home in front of their fans, just as I hope we're going to come out flying in our home opener. But I was sure happy with the grit and determination we showed. That's a grit and determination we barely saw last season, Parker. I know last season was a dog's breakfast. We've talked about it, dissected to death, basically. But that was great to see them score 2 goals in the last 8 minutes from defensemen. By hook or by crook, they got in the nets. Yeah, I'm sure Mike Smith wants both of them, especially the second one back. And they had a chance to win. They were the better team in overtime. Pearson and Pettersson, both with grade A chances. Demko making the first 3 saves. Garland what a first impression. He could have won the game for the team in his very first regular season game, but we got our point, and it was kind of a sign of things to come on the road trip, at least the next game. But I was happy with the comeback for sure.
Yeah, I remember after this game, my reaction was, okay, the Canucks kind of went out and they stole a point, right? This was the most positive loss scenario, right? Team starts out down 2 goals. You've kind of written it off halfway through the third period. They come back, they steal a point, they still lose, but it's in a shootout. So whatever. You say, okay, well, they got a point. They probably shouldn't have. Let's move on. And I was going to say, and I actually said in my post game after that game, I said, if it had been the other way around and the Canucks had a 2-goal lead, blew it in the last 2 minutes, and then lost in a shootout, we'd be very upset because they would have lost a point. And then that almost happens 2 nights later in Philadelphia, where the Canucks allow 2 goals in the last 2 minutes and 17 seconds to tie the game at 4, but then they still go out and secure the win in the shootout there.
Yeah, it was basically the exact same thing as the other game, but opposite. We blew the lead, but won it in overtime, as opposed to just like Edmonton. You could say they blew the lead, yet they won it in the shootout, I should say. That one was a more interesting game. Canucks, that Flyers crowd, they were energetic, weren't they? It was really cool, actually, to see and hear. Then you kind of hope that our guys do okay. But they scored all 4 goals in the second period, right? In that game?
Yeah, the Canucks did. Yeah, and that was a wild second period because Podkolzin opens the scoring for the Canucks to tie the game at 1, and a genuinely good goal. Skating downhill down the right-hand side, his off wing. So he's got the puck on the inside, and he's able to just rip one over Hart, who probably went down a little bit early. And I think this is a game where Corey Hirsch, as a broadcaster, kind of showed like he's got really smart goaltending knowledge, right? He called it right off the bat. He's like, Hart looks not confident. He looks like he's going down early. I'd expect to see a couple of fluky goals, right? Podkolzin one, not fluky, probably savable, but a good shot nonetheless. Then we get an Elias Pettersson goal, which is a shot that goes off of Pettersson, off the wall, off of Carter Hart and in, which is a complete fluke. And then we get a Chiasson goal, which is a really nice pass by Miller to Chiasson in the slot. He tries to tuck it in. It gets stopped. I think it's Sanheim who tries to clear it to the corner, hits Chiasson's skate and goes in. And then JT Miller scores the 4th goal for the Canucks. And I don't even remember this one, but I feel like I remember it being a weird one.
Yeah, it was Pettersson who shot it from basically the goal line. It snuck through Hart, and then Miller was there to poke it in.
Pettersson going down the left wing, fired it across at Hart because he knew he wasn't playing well. Kind of got stuck between his skate blade and the post. Hart kept moving because he didn't know where the puck was, and Miller jammed it home. So 3 fluky goals for the Canucks, and then the Flyers go out, tie it very late. We go to a shootout that the Canucks just go 2 for 2. That's all they needed. 2 rounds, 2 shooters, 2 goals. Elias Pettersson with a quick little shot, and JT Miller undressed Carter Hart. A beautiful goal, and the Canucks get their 2 points on the board.
Yeah, so you walk out of that game, you've played 2 games, and you come out with 3 out of a possible 4 points. That's an awesome start, and we are all confident heading into Detroit on Saturday. Yeah.
Right. The thought is, you know what? It's the Detroit Red Wings. Yes, it's the 3rd home opener the Canucks are playing in 3 games. So you know you're going out against a team that is inspired, and I don't think anyone expected the game we got. The physicality, the emotion, the absolute insane goaltending from Thomas Greiss that I don't think anyone saw coming. But this game starts out with a kind of shaky Yaroslav Halak. I think we sort of noticed at the beginning, just like playing the puck kind of scarily, looked a little bit shaky, but he stayed okay. Didn't allow any goals from it. Then a shot from the point gets tipped by Robbie Fabry and beats him. It's like, all right, it's a tip goal. It's kind of unlucky. And then in the second period, the Conor Garland show begins, right? Conor Garland gets this goal where a nice little give and go with Horvat, takes it behind the net, and has his eyes up the whole time, sees that Greiss's head is off the post, and the only way this goes in, because he's literally on the goal line, is if you hit the goalie's head. And he nails it, hits the side of Greiss's mask, and knocks it in to tie the game at 1. Then Zadina scored one only 2 minutes later, which ended up being the game-winning goal. But the real story from this game was sort of the Garland versus Zadina, the Garland versus everybody. It was very emotional, very physical, and a lot of stuff came out of that game.
Yeah, you have Zadina bouncing off Garland's back. I don't know how you can bounce off a guy who's only 5'8", 170 or whatever Garland is. And then for Zadina to make those silly post-game comments where he was basically making fun of himself if he used the M word, right? And if he basically said that's what that guy does because he's an M word, yet Zadina was the one who got injured. So what does that make Zadina? Whatever. Yeah. And then I liked how Horvat, Ekman-Larsson, Pullman, Pearson, all those guys, they made the comment that Garland kind of dragged them all into the fight with them, and they were fine. They're ready to fight. I loved it. I don't think there's going to be any feud between these two teams. We don't play them again for another 6 months, so it'll be long forgotten by then. But it was nice to see the Canucks tough it out, even though they were not rewarded on that particular night.
Yeah, there's a lot of people after Gadjevich got claimed, after McEwen got claimed, that were all, okay, well, where's this toughness going to come from, right? We don't have these big bodies that can drop the gloves. Well, we saw toughness from the smallest guy on the team, Conor Garland, in spades. We saw Bo Horvat leading by example, getting into a scrum, throwing some punches, getting a little bit of a takedown. We saw Oliver Ekman-Larsson getting involved. We saw Garland going after Giovanni Smith, who was all over Ekman-Larsson. We saw a lot of heart. And toughness doesn't always mean size, right? It's, this is clearly a group that is already standing up for each other, only 3 games into the season, which is great to see. And they looked like a team that is ready to compete, and they dominated this game, by the way. The shots were, I think, 41-21. Yeah. Shots in the third period, 23-6 for Vancouver. Down a goal, and they said, we're just gonna come out firing, and they absolutely did that. Which you love to see that. You love to see the battle level after kind of an iffy first period, a second period that you probably played better in, but still come out down 1, then to come out in the third and be like, you know what, this is a team we should beat. Let's go out and beat them. And they got goalied. What can you say? But it's still a great effort that night.
And having said that, if Thomas Greiss was 2 inches more forward, it would have been a tie game when Rathbone with Niels Höglander just kind of brushing. It was properly called because Greiss was in his crease still, but if he was 1 inch ahead, that's a tying goal. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that was one that had a lot of flack brought up about the whole goalie interference thing, and I think it was goalie interference. If that had happened to us, if that had happened to the Canucks and someone clipped Demko's head skating by and then the puck goes in, we'd be furious, right?
Furious.
So I was not upset with that call. The ref had to call that. But yeah, I mean, it was a great game. And yeah, if Thomas Greiss played like an average goaltender that night, it's probably a 5-2 or 4-2 game. And the Canucks would have had 5 points out of a possible 6, which would be excellent. But right now they are squarely at 500 out of a possible 3 points out of a possible 6, 3 points in 3 games, which, starting the season on a 6-game road trip, you'd like to have more, but I think if the Canucks came out of this road trip with 7 or 8 points in 6 nights, which is definitely possible, you look at that as a win.
Yes, I agree. And even if they only get 5 or 6 points, I've always said, if you can go 500 on the road, if you can get 41 points in 41 games, right, to keep that 41 in your head, and if you can win 2/3 of your games at home, which I think is reasonable, let's say you win 27 of the 41, 27 times 2 is 54, 54 of 41, there's your 95 points to get in the playoffs. So for me, yes, you kind of want to see them get more than 5. I hear what you're saying, given the low quality of teams, supposedly, that we're playing. But yeah, you want to be at least 500 on the road to give you a fighting chance to get in the playoffs. And we're there right now. And maybe we go above 500 tomorrow with 2 points in Buffalo. We'll see.
Right. And I think you can look at this last game, especially where they didn't get any points. And you can look at it, it's a bit early in the season to be saying moral victories. But look, they got out and they dominated a team that they should dominate at this point in the season, at this point in both teams' trajectories, which, some nights you're just not going to get the points. The Canucks are going to win some games that they don't deserve to throughout the season as well. It happens. It's hockey. Scores are so low that luck, plays into it occasionally. You'll get the occasional 1-0, 2-1 game, right? Like the game against Philadelphia, the Canucks scored 3 weird goals that they probably shouldn't have. That is what earned them the 2 points there. So things give and take throughout the season.
Now, are we going to talk about the actual title of our episode as one of the banners, or should we address it right now real quick? Or is that...
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've titled this episode "A Promising Start with Meh Results" is the actual title, which I think is fair. And then the thumbnail, I think, said 3 games in, is this a playoff team? Basically. So from what you have seen from these 3 games, has your opinion changed at all? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? What's your sort of stock ticker doing right now?
Yeah, my stock ticker it's where I thought they'd be, and that is a playoff team. I think obviously they're going to need more than 500 to make the playoffs, but we just talked about that math. I think actually our defense has been way better than people were worried about, better than I expected. Our offense, you only score 1 and you score 2 the night before. The first night. I think our offense still needs to find its way. The power play still needs to find its way, but I think Brock Boeser can help with those 2 categories, right? With the offense and with the power play. So overall, I'm fine. I'm comfortable. You make a great point, Parker, that they played in 3 home openers against in visiting arena. So I'm actually fine. I'm calm. I'm good, and I'm confident, quietly confident. How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm cautiously optimistic at this point, right? I don't think my stock has really changed. Looking at these 3 games, they're games that I think they played the way I expected to. You look at this Detroit game, right? A guy like Brock Boeser is an absolute game changer there, right? You just can't beat this goalie. Well, the guy most likely to beat that goalie wasn't in the lineup that night, right? We could be talking about a whole different game if Brock Boeser is on the power play there instead of, whether it's Chiasson or whoever you bump down to Unit 2. We should get Brock Boeser back. We'll get a little bit more into that later on. Now, sort of a new segment that we didn't really talk about, but not really a crazy segment. I want to know, of the week, who are your stars of the week for the Vancouver Canucks? Doesn't have to be 3, doesn't have to be 1, 5, whatever. Who impressed you this week? Who did you watch in these 3 games and say, you know what, they did better than I expected?
Well, I'm going to name 3. I know it's traditional to name 3 stars, and you just said we don't have to, but I'm going to go with JT Miller. He's leading the team in scoring. I think he's got 4 points in 3 games already, right? 3 of them came in 1 game, the same game that he scored the shootout winner. So I've been impressed with Miller. Travis Green loves him. We know that. In fact, it looks like Miller may start at center tomorrow, but I've been impressed with him. And I'm actually going to pick the 2 new guys from Arizona. I think that Conor Garland is a beast. We saw that, and he was single-handedly having the whole Red Wings team chase him around the ice. And I think Ekman-Larsson has been solid. He's been way more aggressive than I thought he was. But then it was funny, Parker. I remember because I filmed it. I put it on YouTube when the Sedins scored in their final home game. You might remember it was a power play in overtime. And right off the draw, I remember Richardson got waved off. So Horvat took the draw against Ekman-Larsson. And I should remember this. Horvat won the draw because remember the Vancouver didn't give up the puck for that whole 2 minutes. Yeah, Ekman-Larsson was just like cross-checking. And at the time, I was like, this guy's a jerk or aggressive. So I shouldn't be surprised that he's actually showing a bit of a mean streak. I love it. And I think he's thriving in a hockey market now, and I have no worries about him. And then I want to give some love to Pullman. I know a lot of people have been talking about him in the chat. He's, we don't expect big things like from Ekman-Larsson, but I think Pullman's been great too. But if I had to pick 3, I'll go Miller, Garland, and Ekman-Larsson.
Yeah, I agree there. Mine were my first one was Tyler Myers strictly for the hit on Duncan Keith. Beautiful clean check right to the chest that left him bleeding. Like it was picturesque. It was beautiful. I have Conor Garland on my list, and again, there's the clear skill we've seen. He's got a great shot. His skating, his edge work is fantastic. He's a spinster out there. He's always just like doing little cuts against the wall, constantly cutting back and forth, finding open space, always trying to make people miss. And then the physicality and the heart aspect too. He is like the perfect player for a fan base to love. He's got the skill, he's got the heart, he's got the physicality, even with his small frame. So I really like Garland. OEL I also had on my list just because, he's been better than I expected him to be. Again, long contract, a lot to live up to, but a very good start. And I just want to give a shout out to Podkolzin for that goal, right? To go out, score his first of the year on a heavy shot, a really good shot, and then to basically not see the ice for the rest of the game, but which I wasn't too critical of, but everything we've heard out of Vasily Podkolzin is that he just loves hockey and he's happy to be there and he's always going to work hard, which I'm very, very excited for.
And Parker, wouldn't you agree that these 3 games combined, overall entertainment value, almost only in these 3 games, has basically surpassed last season?
I think so. Yeah. The first game was very entertaining. The Flyers game was crazy. in the third, especially the third period of the Red Wings game, where we had all the drama, the Canucks trying to get a goal. That again, I mentioned this. I think it was on your 24-hour stream when I stepped on. Just that feeling of my heart like sinking in my chest and the excitement and like me standing up and pacing in my room that I haven't had in a long time. It's good to have that feeling back, and these games have brought that in spades.
Yes, and there's we read your comments, even though we're trying to focus on each other and show attentive listening skills. We see your comments. Yes, I know Botch Guy said points don't always tell the story, but I still think JT Miller's been a great leader already. Quietly, him and OEL are the new alternate captains. We saw that, which is kind of cool. Some love for Kyle Burrows kind of stepping in, Jack Rathbone. Some people saying Hoglander, some people saying Demko. Yeah, of course, we could name all 20 skaters if we want, but we got to try and narrow it down a little bit. But we see those comments, and it just shows us that you guys are excited about this team, which is awesome.
Yeah, there haven't been a lot of people that have been that we've seen negatively, but your unstars of the week. I was trying to think of something fun. Was there anyone that you saw in these first 3 games, without being too negative, that didn't live up to the hype so far?
Yeah, whether you call it hype or just, I think Highmore's been very quiet, and we're not expecting him to light up the lamp, so to speak. But I get that the bottom 6 is going to be very fluid. Lamako's had a couple spurts, but also kind of a couple nondescript shifts as well. Sure, they can't make something happen every single play. So if even Dickinson, I can't. I'm waiting to see what Dickinson can bring. So maybe it's those 2 guys, and whether you call it unstars, falling stars, shooting, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 guys. Maybe I'll put it like I want to see more from them, but it's only three games in. Yeah.
I've kind of thought the same on Dickinson so far. I haven't seen anything negative from him, but I want to see more. Chiasson has sort of been the easy scapegoat. So far we had the goal, the Puljujärvi goal in the Oilers game that kind of started with Chiasson leaving his man early. And obviously we see him on the first power play and things aren't really getting done, except of course for the game against the Flyers, where he gets that sort of fluky goal off of his leg to go in. But those are sort of the easy picks, and you're taking Brock Boeser's spot. It's going to be hard to impress everyone, but then we've seen Travis Green go and mix things up and move him farther down the lineup, move Hoglander up, Podkolzin up, at least temporarily, and all this stuff. So I haven't seen anything too concerning.
Yes. Yeah. I just looked up some stats. I confirming that Chiasson indeed has 2 points, but I was going to ask you, Parker, it's really interesting. Plus minus isn't the whole end all and be all. We know that. But there's only 3 Canucks players that are plus players, okay? And they're all 3 of them are forwards. So I want you to guess who they are, and I'll tell you none of them are quote superstars. So I'll give you that hint.
Okay, well, thinking of the games, right? Guys like Pettersson, I think, have only been out there for. I think there was the 1 goal. There was 2 of the goals against the Flyers were power play goals. So I'm gonna go with Conor Garland and Podkolzin and Pearson.
Not bad. So you got Podkolzin right. So think of another young guy.
Hoglander?
Yeah. So Hoglander's +2.
He doesn't even have a point, does he? Oh, he has 2 assists. He got 2 assists in the first game.
Podkolzin's +1. And the guy whose name I can't pronounce.
Lamico?
Yeah. He's a +1.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting to hear for sure. And we'll get one more quick topic in before our ad read. We'll go to Brock Boeser. Looks like he's going to be back. We saw him skating in the top 6 today. I don't have the lines pulled up right now, but the other big thing about it was that JT Miller is down as the 3rd line center.
Yeah.
What's your take here?
Well, I'll give you the lines, Parker, and then you can do the first reaction for this one. It was indeed Pettersson with Boeser and Hoglander on the top line. Horvat, Pearson, Garland at number 2. Miller with Podkolzin and Dowling as 3. And then Dickinson, Lamico, and Highmore as 4. What says you?
Yeah, so the Miller one's the interesting one, right? Being the 3rd line center, and because you know me, I'd like to see Pearson maybe down on that 3rd line. If you wanted to stack the top 2 lines, you would move Pearson down, and I still want to see the Lotto line together. Of course, I want to see Miller, Pettersson, Boeser. However, Höglander has been really good. And then like Miller, Horvat, and Garland just seems like such a hard battling line. However, that also would make me think, okay, well, maybe do Miller, like Lotto line, and then Höglander with Horvat and Garland would be really fun too. And it seems like they're trying to sort of spread the love, right? You got Pettersson, Boeser on the top with Höglander. You got Horvat, Garland on the second pair. And then you would have Miller, Podkolzin as your third sort of offensive options. My worry is just, you sort of, I'm not going to say hamstring, but you put Miller and Podkolzin with a guy like Dowling, who maybe doesn't have that offensive upside, and that might worry me a little bit.
Yeah, I love what you said. And it's kind of like the three lines that you and I were kind of hoping for back in August and September, right? It was Lotto, it was Horvat with the two smaller in Garland and Höglander, and then the two Ps with Dickinson, right? Pearson and Podkolzin. Maybe they're going to get to there eventually, but it seems like he's trying every combination except that one.
Yeah, it's weird that the Lotto line hasn't been thrown together yet. Again, it's the first practice with Boeser back in the top six role, not as an extra, with Patan now being an extra. Also of note, Chiasson was an extra in practice today, right? With Boeser coming back in, he was the one that got taken out instead of a guy like Dowling or Lamico or Highmore. Chiasson was the one to get thrown down.
Yeah, so if Boeser comes in, likely Chiasson comes out, obviously, and then Patan's still kind of on the outside looking in. Now it's going to be harder for him to get in because now there's another body in front of him. So we'll see.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick ad break here, and I'm going to say that support for Canucks After Dark is brought to you by Manscaped, who's the best in below-the-waist grooming, the champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Exclusive offer just for you guys, 20% off, free worldwide shipping with the code CAD, Canucks After Dark, CAD at manscaped.com. So they sent us over a bunch of awesome stuff. It was called their Perfect Package. It comes with these 2 aftercare products. You've got Crop Preserver, it's like a deodorant. Crop Reviver, it's like an aftershave. You got some shaving mats and a really nice travel bag for all your bathroom toiletries and stuff. So, of course, Lawnmower 4.0, the full body trimmer. This has genuinely impressed me. It's got a light. You got it running. You got a little light on there. You can see what you're doing. It's waterproof. It's great. And if you buy anything from their site with our code CAD, makes us look good. It helps us out, and you get a darn good product in return. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code CAD at manscaped.com. 20% off, free shipping, manscaped.com, and use code CAD. Unlock your confidence, and you always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right.
No stutters, no word whiskers. Parker, that was awesome, man.
Yeah, we've got our first sponsor, guys. So go check them out. Thank you again, Manscaped, for hooking us up. And let's go. Do you want to go back? Anything else you wanted to talk about with the lineup here?
Well, just before I do that, I want to say that was an awesome read. We are grateful that we have sponsors now. This could be the first of many. And I haven't opened mine yet.
Don't show your address, but yeah.
Wait, thank you. I haven't opened mine yet. Sean, my eldest son, was joking around about opening and not trying it, but opening it up on my stream, but we decided not to. But we'll do that soon. So
absolutely, I can vouch for it so far. Let's go into then what's coming up for the Vancouver Canucks, and that is the rest of this 3-game road trip before our next show. So that is Buffalo, Chicago, and Seattle. And from what we have seen, Buffalo is overachieving, but they're still Buffalo. Chicago has looked like they're hanging Marc-Andre Fleury out to dry. Seattle truly is looking like an expansion team. These are 3 very winnable games to end this road trip.
There are, and Parker, I just so I can focus again. Can you put Agam's comment up, because it's props to you, brother. It's props to you.
Yeah, Agam's saying that I'm much more mature. Trust me, I did this read like 10 times before the show to make sure I was good.
And Parker is like half my age, and he's more mature. Look, I'm still giggling because we joked around about who was going to read this, who was going to do this, and Parker, like within 2 seconds, says, "I'll do it. There's no way you can do it, Clay." Yeah.
We'll get you to do the next one.
Okay, fine.
It'll be funny.
Yes. So we got these 3 games coming to wrap. Yeah. Buffalo. It's interesting. They've only played a couple. Who knows? They don't even need Jack Eichel apparently to win. We should be able to beat Seattle, and I really want us to stomp Seattle. And who knows about Chicago? They got all these old guys. They got all these young guys. They got all these new guys. But yeah, we got to get. If we can take 2 of these wins, and you're right, come back with 7 points, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think look, I'm not saying must win, right? Look, we're going to be 6 games into the season here. It's not must win, but looking back, or looking ahead at the end of the season, all the predictions are the Canucks are going to be just short of the playoffs or they're going to sneak their way in, right? The Canucks are going to be a team that needs every point they can get. So if let's say they're at the end of the playoff race and maybe they're a point out of the playoffs. These are the types of games you look back on and say, we had games against Buffalo, Chicago, and Seattle early in the season, 3 teams that didn't look good. They're points that you can't afford to give up throughout the season. I know I don't want to put, again, too much weight on these, but these are the types of games that playoff teams go out and win. The Seattle game is the only one I'm really worried about. And that is, again, literally the home opener, the first ever game at Climate Pledge Arena. In a brand new rivalry where Canucks fans can't travel yet. So it's going to be basically all Kraken fans. It's going to be absolutely nuts in there. That's a game I'm a little worried about, but if the Canucks can go in there and steal the show, and especially if they can dominate, that could be a really, really good boost in momentum before coming back home against the Wild.
Great point. It does 2 things. It sets you up for an action-packed home opener, a lot of anticipation, momentum, whatever word you want to use. And you're right. It just kind of fires the first shot in the battle against Seattle. I think the next time we play them is then December here, right? That's how it goes. Them in October.
I haven't looked.
Me neither. I think so. We'll go with December.
That is right. December 27th. Okay.
And then what happens? Then we go back there?
Well, the Canucks play the Kraken. Do they only play them 3 times all season? That seems low. But I'm just looking at Google. I typed in Canucks Kraken, and there's only 3 games that come up. And that is October 23rd, which is this one coming up, then December 27th and January 1st. So basically 2 games in 5 days. I feel like they must have another one later on as well.
Yeah, that might be right, though. I think we play all the teams 4 times, but there's 2 Pacific teams we only play 3 times. But it might not be them. I thought it was LA. Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Either way.
Yes. So let's go with taking 2 of the next 3 games and coming back with 7. I think that'll be amazing.
Yeah, I agree there. Yeah, they do only play them 3 times.
Well, Justin said there's one. Justin said
there's one April 26th. April 26th as well. My Google find did not work.
Awesome. So 4 games. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 times against them. And yeah, I remember because that was one of our poll questions that we asked was how many games do you think the Canucks win against Seattle? Almost everyone said 3. And this is going to be a great way to start that. And yeah, I think the Kraken lost like 6-1, didn't they?
Yeah,
to Philly. 6-1 to the Flyers tonight, who the Canucks, sort of hung with a couple of days ago. They lost to the Blue Jackets 2-1. They lost to the Golden Knights 4-3, and they beat the Predators 4-3. So they have 3 points as well, but they have played 4 games thus far.
Good. And Chronic Hands does confirm that Kings and Sharks are the only teams we play 3 times. The other 5 opponents we play 4 times. Thank you for that. Good. Very,
very interesting. All right, so going into Buffalo, Chicago, Seattle, what's your worry, right? What's your, going into these 3 games, do you think any of these could be sort of like a trap game, especially like the Buffalo-Chicago ones?
Buffalo, I think they're going to be bolstered by, if it is indeed Boeser's first game, I think really they're going to be not only energized from Detroit and 2 days off, right? Not just 1 or 2 days in between. They're not doing anything. I think Chicago might be the tricky one because that's the second to last game of the road trip. They're going to be up for Seattle because not only our first game against Seattle, but literally on their way home. I think Chicago would be the one that would be a little tricky, kind of like one of those sleepy midweek games. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Seattle Saturday night, right? You got to get up for those games.
Yeah, Saturday night, brand new arena, brand new team, new fans. It's going to be crazy. Let's move on then to our don't do that's, folks. Get your don't do that's in. For those of you who are new, we do have 100 people in here. Thank you guys for hanging out with us.
Oh, awesome.
Don't do that is basically a thing that you shouldn't do, right? Giving up a 2-goal lead with 3 minutes to go against the Flyers. Don't do that, which the Canucks did, but still getting the 2 points out of that. You could say something like getting shut out by Thomas Greiss, or faking a COVID vaccination card and then being suspended for 21 games, like Evander Kane did, which some people are saying might be literally a crime. Don't do that.
Yeah, I got one. Falling asleep while trying your Manscaped tools for the first time. Don't do that.
Is that something that's happened?
No, well, no, not for me, but it could happen.
Okay, well, yeah, don't do that. Not checking out our sponsor, Manscaped. Don't do that. There you go. Let's see what you guys have to say. We have Justin saying, I think trying to say avoiding 3-point games in divisional matchups. Yeah, that is definitely something to watch, right? If the Canucks are going against the Kraken, you don't want 3 points coming out of these games when it could come down to things near the end of the season.
Botchka. Demonstrating Manscaped on live stream. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's not something we're planning on doing. It's full body too. You can get your arms trimmed up, your legs trimmed up.
Parker, I'm getting a little giggly.
Lucas saying not talking about Abbotsford. Don't do that. Yeah, we haven't really hit on Abbotsford. They are that was one of my topics, was Danila Klimovich, 2 goals, 2 games to start his AHL campaign, and I think the Abbotsford Canucks are 1-1 so far. Is that right?
Yes.
Or did they play again yesterday and lose?
We should know this, but I think they're 1-1.
We should know this. We're bad fans. They won yesterday.
Yeah.
Was that their first win?
Yes.
I don't know.
It was their first franchise win ever.
They have only played 2 games. Yeah. Okay. I got it. Yeah. They're 1-1.
There you go.
I said it perfectly.
Let's go. Time for hockey. Injuring your collarbone in the last 5 minutes of your hockey game. Don't do that. If that's you, we feel bad for you, man.
That sounds rough.
And I want to give some love to. Can we give some love to Coach Rob, who works hard? He's YouTubing as well. Yeah, not checking out my Victoria Royals recaps on YouTube. Don't do that. Coach Rob, we want to support you. Keep up the good work.
Absolutely.
Feeling a nice niche there, so that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. C-Edits losing to the Kraken. Don't do that. We can all agree there. Quatrob, I don't know how to pronounce that. Quattro B, I don't know. Shooting the puck directly at a goalie on grade A opportunities. Don't do that. I mean, that's part of it, but Thomas Greiss was fantastic in that one game.
Absolutely. There's a Loopy Clay. Don't do that. I think I saw that somewhere.
Justin saying that your Loopy Clay is making an appearance.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for your don't do that's one last one. Sharms getting shut out by Craig Anderson. Don't do that. He's still playing, eh?
He still is. Yeah.
He's going to be like 42.
He's got less hair than I do, which is almost impossible.
That is impressive. He's 40. I thought he was older than that. But hey, very young still. I forgot to have the don't do that banner up, but there you go. My next topic was going to be Klimovich has 2 goals in 2 games, but we did kind of touch on that. Anything else on the AHL side interesting you so far?
Well, that Klimovich one's interesting because did you see that story about Dollywall saying now his Quebec major junior team might look at trading him, and then
I saw some people saying that I guess because in the CHL you can have 2 import players that aren't Canadian, I guess. So I guess that team, Ruin Naranda, they want to get rid of him potentially because either A, they don't think he's going to come back to the QMJHL, which might be a fair guess considering he started really well. So try to get maybe some assets for him for a team that maybe is banking on him playing in CHL games. Yeah. And then that way, it gives them some flexibility. Because I think if the Canucks were to send him to the QMJHL, then they would have too many import players and they'd have to get rid of one. Is kind of part of it. So I think that might be some of the motivation.
Yeah, free up a spot, right? That makes sense. And as many people are saying, it might be a moot point anyways, because if he continues to play well, he might not even get a sniff of the Q. You just keep him in Abbotsford. And even as a Canucks potential call-up, that'll be crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he stays in Abbotsford. I think once he plays a game in the CHL, I don't think he can play in the AHL until like April again. Because of the whole 19-year-old rule or whatever. So that is also maybe a reason to keep him in the AHL where he stays.
You're right. There's all these rules, right? Depending on what league you come from. If you come from the Russian league or Belarusian league, it's really weird. Yeah.
All these agreements between the NHL and all these other developmental leagues.
Yes.
with that, we're going to typically our last 15 minutes, we ask for your questions, whatever you guys want to talk about, any topics we want to miss. But before that, our haiku corner, where both of us come prepared with a haiku on how we're feeling about the team. Clay, why don't you kick us off here?
Sure. And I know you noticed it's not as cool as your "Don't Do That" shirt, but I got my sushi roll. This is how I roll.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Because haiku is a Japanese poem. So I'll go like this. Garland is a beast. Boeser is set to return. Let the scoring start. Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
Golf claps.
Thank you.
I think that's a haiku tradition, right? The golf clap afterwards.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mine is 3 games in the books, middle of a 6-game trip, 500 ain't bad.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
All right.
Honorary Japanese man. Very good.
Well, time to get into our Q&A segment. If you guys have any topics that we haven't hit on over the last 45 minutes, any fun questions, they can be hockey related. Typically, we'll focus on the hockey related ones at least for the first 10 minutes or so, or whatever other random questions you have. This is your chance to ask them, and we will address those here. I haven't been reading the comments for the last couple of minutes. Do you want to? Do you have any you wanted to grab here?
We're right off the bat. I actually like Lucas's thoughts on develop a thing for Canucks After Dark for Abbotsford. How about down on the farm?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think I know Cody Severtson does a really good Comets Harvest article that he does after every Comets game. Maybe we'll reach out to him, see if we can get him on, mid-season for like an Abbotsford Canucks update. Maybe something like that, or get someone in for an update. I haven't watched any of the games. I'm not paying for AHL TV. I'm sorry, I'm not paying that. I think it's like $70 a year to just get one team. I think it's US dollars too. It's a little, even with all this Manscaped money, it's a little much for us. So might definitely, I'm planning on trying to get out to a couple of games this year for sure. Maybe soon. I haven't even looked at tickets, but I know every seat in there's a good one. So might be something that we'll touch on in the future for sure.
Absolutely. And we know that people are interested. So and we've talked about this, Parker and I talk about this offline all the time, is our challenges. We want to honor that team, a big part of this organization, yet our bread and butter and what we know more of, admittedly, is the big club, right? So whether that forces us to learn more about Abbotsford or leave that to the Abbotsford experts so we can position ourselves as semi-Canucks experts, that's something we got to talk about. But thank you. That's great feedback.
Yeah, and another part of it's just time, right? We both have day jobs. We're both watching all 82 Canucks games this year. We're both doing some sort of coverage for all of them, whether it's me doing a post-game live stream or you doing a video, and then your 2 live streams a week, and then we have this show on Mondays, and it can be a lot, a lot of stuff to follow. So I'm gonna sort of casually follow Abbotsford, and we'll get some experts in, maybe for some coverage there.
A lot of great questions, Parker. Just put one up there and let's just start talking.
Well, let's start with a fun one. Botch Guy, what are you dressing up as for Halloween?
I'm going as a good-looking Asian dad, so no costume required.
I also have no costume. There's a Spirit Halloween so close to me, and I was gonna go like a month ago, and I never did, and it's probably too late now. Everything there is probably kind of trash, so probably nothing this year. Do the Canucks play on Halloween?
Sunday night? I don't think so.
Good. That means I don't have to be dressed up for my show. Perfect.
Have you ever done a good, what's your best Halloween costume ever? Or at least a good one?
When I was like 2 years old, I was Mike Wazowski from Monsters, Inc. And I think I peaked right there.
Wow, that's not bad. I think my best was probably as a housewife. Did the curlers, wore the house coat, makeup, and a broom or whatever. Not to be sexist, that's what I thought a housewife was at the time. Yeah.
A little risky. House husband, maybe. Yeah, Let's see here. Wow, there's so many questions. You guys are killing it here. Noah wants our thoughts on Tucker Poolman so far. We kind of touched on Tucker earlier, but I mean, again, he's sort of flying under the radar, but I think he hasn't looked bad. I think he has sort of been exactly as advertised.
Yeah, when you play with Quinn Hughes, you need to be a stay-at-home defenseman. You can't be, I almost said stay-at-home dad or stay-at-home mom. You need to be a stay-at-home defenseman, and he's I think done that well. I think he's done that really well, actually. He's been covering for Hughes. Not that Hughes made any horrible gaffes, but I think he's great. I think he's solid, and he's not afraid to mix it up. He's a decent skater. He's been fine.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat. Go 711. Why did Puck Colson get benched after scoring his first goal? Do you want to take this one, or do you want me to take this one?
I'm happy to start it off, and if you want to fill it in.
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with his celebration or punishing him for scoring.
Travis Green hates fun.
It had everything to do with the situation. The Canucks were up, but they basically got up 2 goals. And when you get to the third period, you shrink your bench down from 4 lines to 3. That means only 9 guys play, not 12. And you basically take your 9 best defensive guys who can still score but can play defense as well. This was Puck Colson's second ever NHL game. He hasn't earned Travis Green's trust yet to defend a lead. So I think that's understood. I didn't mean to come out like that. I think that's the thinking.
Yeah, I think both of us had the exact same take when it happened. And I know in my post-game show, there was a ton of people who were like, Puck Colson didn't play and the Canucks blew a lead. And it's like, well, in that scenario, yeah, sure, you have a game tomorrow night, but that's not the worry right now. The thing is, you're in position to win a game. You're up 2 goals, 20 minutes to play. You're putting your best players on the ice. If Quinn Hughes has to play 27 minutes, if all these other players have to play 10 minutes of the third period because it's your best chance of winning this game, then you do it, right? A couple extra shifts for each player isn't going to kill them. Well, however, if you had 3 lines for the whole game, they'd be exhausted. So you overwork your guys a little bit in the third period because they're your best players, they're the guys you trust. And look, this conversation is entirely different. That game never goes to overtime if Horvat hits the net on that long clear, or Highmore has an extra step and beats the icing, right? Canucks still win it in a shootout. I think it's fine. Puck Colson is going to get 10 minutes a night for a while, same as Bo Horvat did 7 years ago, right? The Canucks aren't going to rush him. There's no need to rush him. Don't rush the Russian. I don't know. He'll be fine.
Nicely done. Don't rush the Russian.
Anyone you want to pick here, or should I just keep going through the list?
Keep going.
Soja asking about JT Miller. Is it just me, or does JT Miller look a little off?
I don't know. Maybe I just like him a lot as a player. I really do. And he does still try and force those passes from his own end. It's not the best, and I'm not excusing it, but it's not a surprise yet either. He's probably good for one of those a night.
Yeah. As
long as they don't score, I guess it's a little better than if they do score. But I think he does more good than bad for sure. So I kind of take it with.
It looks like he's been fighting the puck a little bit, and lots of people get into these phases where the puck just keeps bouncing off your stick, and you're gripping the stick a little too hard, as they say, and things just don't work. And I'm not too concerned. Look, for him not produce or like looking a little bit off and still putting up 4 points in 3 games, that's the best slump you can have, I guess. And
yes.
If he's only going to get better, sign me up.
Yes, happy with that.
I'm just going to scroll here. My whole thing skipped a little bit. Scrolling. Oh, Justin, bring up the Matthew Tkachuk penalty that he got on the delay of game. Did you see this?
No, tell me about it.
So basically, the Flames were taking a delay of game penalty. One of their defensemen shot the puck over the bench, over the glass. So what Matthew Tkachuk does, as he sees it flying over his head, about to be a delay of game penalty, he jumps up, 2 hands on his stick, and swats it out of the air to keep it from going over the glass. And he still got a penalty for it. They still got a delay of game penalty for it because it was going to go over the glass. But it was an excellent save, and I don't think it should have counted.
Oh, he was on the bench, you mean?
He was on the bench. Yeah, the puck was going over, and he stood up on the bench and kept it from going over the glass. It was an excellent play.
That's great hand-eye coordination. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, they still gave him a penalty. So
okay, fair enough.
Either way. Let's see here. Gonna keep scrolling. Wow, there's so many things. I'm trying to pick the best ones. Botch guy with an interesting one on JT Miller, and I think we touched on this during your stream as well. Do you think the Canucks will be forced to trade JT Miller after this season? He's got this year and the next on his contract, right?
That's correct. He's 2 more years, yeah.
So 2 more years, including this one on his contract. And then, he's going to be, I think, 29, 30 years old. Do you trade him now or trade him, in the offseason while his value is high and try to use that cap space somewhere else? Or do you see him as a true part of this core for the next 3, 4, 5 years?
That's such a fascinating question. They have the cap space. I don't know the exact numbers, but I've seen projections from a smarter guy than me named Harmdale of The Athletic, and he's kind of projected out that we will have the cap space to sign both Boeser this year and then Horvat, Miller the year after that. But that doesn't mean just because you have cap space that you should keep them. I really think if you're think that you're a playoff team next year as well, you're likely not going to improve your team by trading him. Maybe I'm being kind of a little short-sighted here, but I would love for them to keep him because if you trade him, guess what? You're going to look for a top line winger, right?
You're just trying to replace him. And if you're trying to replace him with someone younger, the cost is going to be higher. Look, he's going to be making $5.25 million next year. And if that's your competing year, if that's the year they're trying to go all in, then you want JT Miller making 5.25, being either on your first line wing or jumping around and playing third line center or second line wing or wherever they need him to be. I think, if you're going to go all in, and you might be trying to get rentals anyways, well, JT Miller is probably a really good rental for 1 year, and then you can still go out and try to sign him afterwards. And whether the price would have to go up, hopefully it wouldn't be too long-term a deal with him being, 28, 29, 30, I guess 30 29 when the deal's done, I guess. No, it'd be 30 when the deal's done. It's sort of a balancing act there.
What's interesting too is that obviously contract was signed with Tampa, not with us. But if you have him at 5.25, you have Garland at 4.95, you have Bo at just at 5.3 or whatever he's making for next season. Those are potentially top line guys that are making second line money. That's good. That's really good.
That's where value is. And with the Canucks having the second highest paid defense in the NHL, you got to make the savings somewhere. And if you can have your top guys making that little money, and I think the Canucks, if you look at the Canucks sort of bottom six, all the guys that are making like $1 million or less, that's very huge, right? You don't have Beagle making 3, Roussel making 3, Eriksson making 6, Sutter making 4.5, right? Having these guys or having other guys that are similar making $1 million, less than $1 million, it really frees up that money to maneuver at least a little bit.
Yes. Can you please put up James's question about 6 Up about OEL and Hughes on Power Play 1? So my question is, I want to ask you 2 questions, Parker, would you ever try these 2 on the same unit, or do you think the first unit should be at 4 forwards, 1D? And the second question is, if you only had one of these guys, which of these 2 guys would you actually put on your first power play unit?
I think the Canucks have enough good forwards that that having both of these guys doesn't matter a lot. And it really depends on how they would want to. I think if you had both of them on the same power play, they would have to change their entire power play style, right? The Canucks have stuck with the umbrella for a long time, and that is one guy at the top, 2 guys on the boards, and then one in front and one sort of in the bumper down low. If you have, the goal is you're going to have the guy at the top being the quarterback, whether that's OEL, whether that's Hughes, whether it's Myers sometimes, and then he has basically 2 guys to feed for shots, and then they can go down low if need be. But if you were to replace like Boeser on one wall with OEL and move Boeser down low, or move Pettersson somewhere, it doesn't really work with that style of power play. If they changed it up a bit, and I don't know exactly what they'd change it to, but that could maybe have a different look. But I think when you have guys like Pettersson, Boeser, Garland, Miller, Horvat, you have enough options to put a lot of firepower on that top line. And all you're looking for from a defenseman is a guy who can get a shot through if need be, like OEL and Hughes both can, and a guy who can make good passes in the wheelhouse of your guys along the wall to get shots through and to get hard shots, scoring chances on net. So I don't really see putting them together as something that's going to happen. However, it's definitely an interesting conversation.
And what's interesting at practice today, Hughes got a maintenance day. So Ekman-Larsson played on the top unit with the big 4 of Miller, Pettersson, Horvat, and Boeser. And then on the second unit, it was actually Hunt filling in for Hughes. So it was basically Hunt/Hughes, Rathbone. So 2 defensemen, and then Höglander with Garland and Pearson. So the second unit had 3 forwards and 2D.
Yeah. You see this sometimes with some teams too, because lots of the time power play 1 is going to get the first like 90 seconds of a power play, ideally. Right. And then that second power play unit is going to get the last 30, and they're going to get the guy coming out of the box. So lots of times you will see, a team go 2 defensemen for that second power play unit, because you're not that likely to score in that last 30 seconds anyways. You have worse players on the ice. You're going to structure it more as like a regular 5-man unit. And then when the guy comes out of the box, you still have a regular line 2D out there. You're not stuck with 4 forwards, which can be a little bit scary. If you have to have like Podkolzin coming back to fill in on defense against NHL players, it's probably not going to go so well. So that might be part of it. It also might just be, the personnel they have available.
Yep. Very good. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see as soon as the Buffalo takes their first penalty tomorrow, I guess.
Absolutely. It's asking, when do you think we will see Luke, Schenn, and Brad Hunt in the lineup? I think this is a really good question because this is what we thought we would see game one, right? We saw the lines get tweeted out, and pairing 3 on most of the line sheets were Hunt and Schenn, and then pair 4 was Burrows and Rathbone. And we look at that and we say, okay, well, it's game 1 of the season. It's not going to be Burrows and Rathbone. It's going to be Hunt and Schenn, the 2 solid veteran guys, which is boring, but it's fine. And then it was Rathbone and Burrows, and they've actually been good. They've been absolutely fine. They haven't been a liability. They've been dynamic. They've caused a couple of chances. They haven't been perfect, but they've been good. Rathbone's had some mistakes, some giveaways, holding the puck a little bit too long sometimes, but they've been a good pair. What do you think would have to happen for Schenn and Hunt to end up in the lineup?
Yeah, I think a couple things would have to happen. I think Rathbone and or Burrows would have to have a really bad game, or maybe the 2 of them together, say they go -2 or something at even strength. I also think if the Canucks ever play against a team that's not as fast, because then you want Rathbone in there, but rather a team that's heavier, that's really has big forwards, that's really going to try and pound away at the D. I think that's when you want these bigger. Actually, no, Hunt's not that big, but Schenn is. But at least the veteran presence. So maybe like a heavier team like St. Louis or something like that. That off the top of my head. But I really think unless Burrows and Rathbone have a really bad game, I think we're going to see them for the next little bit. But it's an easy switch, right? These 2 guys are veteran guys, as you said. You can just slot them in and very low maintenance.
Yeah, I think they're totally fine as guys who can sit in the press box for 10 games, come in at a moment's notice, and do absolutely fine. I kind of agree with. I think it would be they'd have to do really bad, maybe on like a back-to-back if there's been maybe like a 4-6 sort of scenario, which I don't think the Canucks have for a little bit here, but something like that, or a physical team. I think team makeup and trying to sort of line match would be the main opportunity, or if they just want to give these 2 young guys a rest day, like I said, in like a 4-6 sort of scenario.
I agree.
All right. We are past 11. Do you want to grab one more here to wrap up on?
Okay. One more.
By the way, Coach Rob does say to hit the like button, so do that.
He's smart. Let's go. Let's go up to Tuck 1053 when Mott is ready to return. You see that one? 1053.
Oh,
or 1055. 1055.
Okay, that's why I can't find it.
Yeah.
Tuck's question: when Tyler Mott is ready to return, who do we see him instead of Highmore? Or even a better question: who does Mott take out of the lineup? I mean, we saw Tyler Mott skate at training camp. 3 weeks ago or 2.5 weeks ago, whenever that was. He was skating after on his own, probably just not cleared for contact yet, but he is skating. He's shooting pucks. Who do you see him taking out of the lineup?
If I had to pick one, and we're not including Chiasson and Patan because they're technically out as of tomorrow if Boeser plays, I'm going with Lammikko, actually. If you think that Dickinson is your 4th line because you want to play Miller in the 3rd center, you can still put Dowling as a center if you have to. I think Lammikko has been the least effective. So I would keep Highmore and even Dowling in ahead of Lammikko.
Interesting. I could see that. Yeah, I think Travis Green really likes Highmore. So I could see him staying in. Although I think him and Tyler Mott play a similar game that Mott's better at.
True.
So if they're going for style of play, not fashion, then that might make more sense. The other thing you have to keep in mind here is if they do make a move like that, someone has to get waived, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So Tyler Mott comes in. Someone has to get waived. Do they risk a guy like Lammikko, who they just picked up in that trade for Juolevi? Do they go with someone like Chiasson, who they're probably pretty sure wouldn't get claimed, considering he was on a PTO and could have signed with anyone then? Nick Patan, who still hasn't gotten a look, even after being sort of the 3rd guy with Pettersson and Boeser, or with Miller and Boeser, sort of the Pettersson fill-in training camp. Lots of options there too.
Yeah, and if Boeser plays tomorrow, they got to put someone. They'll be over the limit anyways. They got to put someone on waivers tomorrow or get someone off the roster because they'll be 24 and they got to get down to 23, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Hey, yeah, he's still on
Yeah,
IR. So
yeah.
yeah, they'd have to pull somebody.
I think tomorrow you put Chase on waivers and
Yeah,
yeah,
I wouldn't hate that. And look, I mean, we saw him on the power play a fair bit, but if he's going to be an extra anyways, um,
yeah.
I think he's a guy that you can be almost 100% sure goes down, and if he does get claimed, eh.
No, it's true.
For what we've seen so far, I don't think he gets claimed because I think his only real role is net front on the power play, or at least down low on the power play. And I think most teams have their power play units sort of set at this point, and Chiasson's probably not the guy they're going to go out and grab.
Yeah, Chase's not bumping Connor McDavid from the first unit of Edmonton. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we are going to wrap up there, folks. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. If you missed any part of the show, you can rewind back to the beginning. Make sure you're subscribed to the Canucks After Dark channel. You can listen to it in podcast form, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify and Apple are both linked in the description. So if you want to listen tomorrow morning or even later on tonight, it'll be up in a few minutes. Go listen there. And make sure you subscribe to your favorite podcast platform. Hit the like button here on the show. Make sure you follow both of us on socials, our own YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And of course, thanks again, Manscaped, for sponsoring the show. Code CAD for 20% off and free shipping if you want some good a good trimmer. It's a good product. And thank you guys very much once again. We'll be back next Monday. With Canucks After Dark. Of course, I have my post-game shows that I do after every game. Clay does his 2 live streams a week and basically videos every day. So go follow both of us for some good Canucks content basically every day. As always, Clay, any parting words for tonight?
Well, between now and next week, they have these 3 away games. Actually, by the time we talk next week, they still won't have played their home openers. So no, I'm looking forward to a good week. And we'll know a lot more about this team a week from today, and we'll be teeing up the home opener. So it's going to be a good week for sure.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for us, and we will see you guys next week.